And welcome back to Nancy's Neighborhood. And I told you all that we have a real exciting guest with us today. And this is Dr. Ken Phillips, but he writes as C.K. Phillips. And he has written 2 books, and a third one is in the works. Is that correct, Ken?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. Now, your background is in education.
Right.
And you taught, and you've been a principal, and now you're affiliated with Cleveland State.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And so, folks, I've read this first book, Comes the Awakening, and it is really good, Ken. It's really good. It's one of those you hate to lay down because you're not really sure what's going to happen next, and I found it very fascinating.
I appreciate that. That's what I want to do, is tell a good story.
You told a good one.
And I've been an avid reader all my life, and about 3 years ago, I've wanted to write for a long time. I thought that I might could do that. Background in undergraduate degree in English and teaching English all these years. Mm-hmm. About 3 years ago, I decided. I looked in the mirror and I said, if you're going to do this, old man, you better get busy. So I actually started writing, and I've gotten 2 books now that I'm done, and I've got one in the works, probably about a third of the way done, I guess.
Well, Ken came by the shop and we sat and talked about this because this is really, really good, folks. And the thing about it, I said, Ken, how in the world did you know some of these things that you did? There's one scene in here where a sniper goes in. Now, I'm not going to tell everything about the book, but there's one scene where a sniper goes in, and Ken tells how he clears the spot, sets up the rifle, and the whole 9 yards. And so I asked Ken, I said, have you ever been in the military? Were you a sniper? And so your answer was?
My answer was no, and I wish I could tell you that I just knew inherently all these things.
Oh, it was awesome.
But when you're doing the books, unless you've actually lived them, and most authors haven't lived mm-hmm. what they write about to the extent they write anyway. But just a lot of research, talking to people, a lot of time spent on the internet. You want to make it as realistic as you can.
Well, it was.
Because there's always somebody, and I do the same thing when I read a book. If they talk about a place or they talk about doing something, a lot of times I'll go check it out and make sure that that's what they said is actually what the place looks like, or the type of rifle that could do this and those kinds of things. So there's a lot of research that goes into it, and I enjoy that part of it too.
That's good, because this book takes place in Nova Scotia, and I asked Ken, I said, have you ever been to Nova Scotia? And
I have. My wife and I, probably the best vacation we've ever taken. A few years back, we drove up through Niagara Falls, went into Canada, and then drove across Canada, stopped at Montreal about 3 days or so, but drove around Nova Scotia, and stayed in Lunenburg, in the Peggy's Cove, Lunenburg area, which is the site for this book, mm-hmm. and just absolutely loved it. It was a beautiful place, and we'd go back in a heartbeat. At the time we went, now Oak Island, which is the site for many of the things that happen mm-hmm. in this book, and it's one of the most intriguing ideas right now for people. And there's been a series on, I guess, the History Channel having to do with Oak Island and buried treasure and all of that. At the time we went to Nova Scotia, I didn't know anything about Oak Island, so I didn't actually visit Oak Island at that time. But the Peggy's Cove and Lunenburg area, we just absolutely loved, and looking for a setting for my first book. I wanted to set it there, and then when I found out about Oak Island and the possibilities with the treasures and all the ideas of who may have stowed those treasure
mm-hmm.
there, it just fell into place, and so that became the setting for my first book.
And of course, it was easy for you to do the pirate theme on the treasure, although that's not where the book goes, folks, but the possibility of pirate treasure there on Oak Island, and then it goes on into the actual treasure that's in this book.
Right.
Which is so fascinating.
Right, and that's where we pull in the idea of the Knights Templar.
Yes.
another one of the big ideas that intrigue people today is really what happened with the Knights Templar and back in the early 1300s. They had King Philip in France decided he was going to get rid of all of the Knights Templar because they had become so powerful and so wealthy and rich that they became, I guess, in competition with him almost. So he decided he was going to purge all of them, and this book tells one idea about what may have happened with some of those Knights Templar and some of the treasure at that time.
Right, and that's what's fascinating, is because I didn't know how much research you had to do about the Knights Templar, but Dan Brown's books and all these, that's kind of a hot topic right now, is all of the Knights Templars and that type of, almost a mythical type situation. So I thought that was really fascinating. When I started reading it, I thought, wonder where we're going with this. And then I found out where we were going with it. It's really good.
Well, I certainly appreciate that. And the story was there, and now whether or not I did a good job of telling it or not.
Oh, you did.
That,
it was really good. It was good.
And what I wanted to do is in all my books, you can read them, or your middle schooler can read them. It's not filled with blood and gore. It's not filled with sex. Not filled with profane language.
Right.
So I wanted to tell a story without getting into all of that. And some of my favorite authors, you've already mentioned, Dan Brown, love him. Clive Cussler, read everything he's ever written. Some of those people like that became the inspiration. I'd like to someday think I could be mentioned in the same category with them, same sentence, but I can't. But they're really good.
They are good.
They are.
And we talked about this. David Baldacci and some of those people that I read, folks. I do read this, and I was telling somebody just a few minutes ago before we came on the air. I also read Sandra Brown and Catherine Coulter and some of those people, but I love to read these thrillers. And this is a Kent and Landers thriller. And your second book, which I haven't gotten to read yet, Echoes of Skeletons Past, is also a Kent and Landers. This is a team that works together. They've been friends, but they're two different backgrounds.
Right.
Well, I mean, they played basketball together in college, but after that, they separated, and one of them became a professor, and one of them went into special ops.
Right. Phil Kent is the lesser of the adventurous, I guess, of those two characters. He went into teaching and coaching some, and became a writer. Bill Lander, who had played basketball with Kent in college, decided he would go to the service and became a special operative in special ops, and became a SEAL. And he got out and became a professor also at a college, and teaches North American studies. So he's interested in a lot of these areas, a lot of things that happen. And we bring in the Native American
Yes, you do. You do that well.
aspect in the Comes the Awakening, and a Native American tribe up in Fond du Lac, Minnesota, comes into play in that. And what made the interesting story about that, and I probably hadn't even told you this. I'd never heard of Fond du Lac. Okay,
I hadn't either till I read this book.
There is a community college there that is a Native American Fond du Lac college there, and my grandson played football at Walker Valley.
Oh, good.
And,
okay. See, my producer Bryce over there is shaking his head. He loves Walker Valley.
Right, and during his senior year, after I had pretty well written the book, but before I actually published it, he came in one day and he said, "Hey, I got a call from a coach in Minnesota," and just out of the blue, I said, "Fond du Lac," and he said, "Yeah, how did you know that?" So he actually called him to see if he would be interested in coming up there and playing football, which you don't believe in coincidences, but that would never happen in 100 years.
Absolutely not.
So after his senior year, we actually drove up there. and went to Fond du Lac and visited the college and talked with them. And it's just a short distance from Duluth up there. Beautiful,
Okay.
beautiful little college. Built with a lot of Native American architectural things with that, but just an unbelievable story that happened. And like I said, I'd never heard of it, didn't contact them, just did
And it
some research.
fell right in place.
And it fell right into place.
That's wild. Now, I told Ken that I had a couple of questions I wanted to ask about, and I'm not going to give anything away in the book, I don't think. But I wanted to know how you came up with the digital interactive camouflage. Is that really something?
Well,
or did you? If it's not, it should be.
It is to some extent.
Okay.
Now, I don't know how far the military has actually gone with this.
Okay.
I'm sure that, but there is some interactive camouflage that has been developed for hunters, as a matter of fact.
Okay.
Probably not in the same vein as this, but if I were guessing, I would think that I would not be too far off from what they're capable of really doing, or really doing in a short period of time from
And
now.
folks, you need to read the book to see about that, because that was fascinating to me. I mean, it was totally fascinating. And I can't say any more because it'll give some of the plot away. But anyway, and you know, here I've talked to you about this because I talked to you about the sniper, but all the weapons that you mentioned in here, everybody has a different weapon, or everybody uses a different knife or something. And there are some killings in here, but they're not real gory or anything like that. But I just wondered your familiarity with these, or again, did you research to?
Researched some. I've got a Glock myself, so
Okay.
I'm a little bit familiar with the Glock handgun. But I didn't want everybody to go around carrying a Glock, so we mixed it up a little bit with what we felt like that from research that an ex-SEAL would
Gotcha.
would carry, and so forth. So
Gotcha. Yeah.
good sniper rifle that I found in there to use with the sniper.
Oh yeah, that
was
was
a part.
that one just really fascinated me, because I kept thinking, Ken must have either been a sniper or personally knows somebody that was a sniper, because that was just, you set that scene up so well.
See, I do like Walter Mitty. I do a lot of things in my head.
Well, you did good on that one. Now, we have a little situation where we had a Superfly,
Superfly.
and that's different from the entertainment, folks. This is a Superfly. Do you think we really have those?
I would bet my last dollar probably on that.
Okay.
And the Superfly is a drone, okay, a small drone
Little
in
drone.
the shape of a fly that was used in the story to infiltrate a vehicle and get some information from a couple of the antagonists. I would bet that we have those kinds of things right now.
That was fascinating to me. I mean, just the way you set that scene up where the fly flies in and then just lights. I'm not going to tell that either. Okay, but that's part of the book. That's part of the story. Okay, and then the triquestra that we had. Okay, let me just. We're looking for a treasure, and you can't just go pick it up. You have to have clues.
Right.
And I loved the way you did that, because clue one, and this is great, folks. The treasure is located at latitude 44.31, longitude 64.18. It is the island closest to the inner circle of the mainland. Find the northeastern rock bluff. At low tide, find the opening in the rock wall and enter it. Walk through the tunnel and find the inner circle, and you will see the treasure chests, but do not try to take them off the shelves on which they're sitting. And there's a reason you can't take them off the shelves, folks, but you have to read the book. But I thought it was very interesting that you talked about the triquestra. Am I saying that right?
Right.
Okay, because that then brought a religious aspect into the Knights Templar, with that being the Trinity.
Right.
Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. So I thought that was really fascinating.
It that came as a result of the research again
Okay,
in the Knights
okay.
Templar. But just what I like to do and what I try to do in all my books, and I'll do the same thing in the third one to some extent. But my background's in English, but I love science. Okay, I
Okay.
just think it's fascinating.
It is.
And particularly if you go back and look in history at some of the things that took place that we now are finding out that really have a scientific basis maybe and so forth. So I really try to find something several things, in fact, that I like to throw into the book that's true, or that will make you go back and look at, if you're really interested in it, say, now, is that true? Could this happen? Go back and look at it, look that up, and make sure that I'm on the right path when I'm talking about it and so forth. But those things have always been interesting to me, like in the Dan Brown things. You just don't read the book and put it down.
No.
There's things there that you go and start looking at,
Right.
and it becomes, for me, I've got to watch it when I'm researching, because there's so much interesting things out there that I'll get down all kind of rabbit trails there and finally decide, well, I've got to just use this and
Right.
not get out too far there.
Well, there's 5 clues that they have to follow sequentially.
Right.
And if they don't, then it's history. So that was fascinating to me. And then of course, Russia's in here, and you make Putin be kind of a good guy, which is okay. I mean, not a real good guy, and he has his reasons for being as good as he is in this book. But this one to me, was just really fascinating. And there was one other little thing I wrote. Oh, the NTAS, which is the National Terrorist something. You used it in the book. Is that really something, or did you just make them up?
That's one that I probably just made up.
Okay, that's fine, because it's good, and it serves its purpose in here, and it's really, really good. So let me ask you, now I see the Echoes of Skeletons Past is also a Kenton Landers thriller.
Right.
And these are thrillers, folks. And so your third book, will it also be Kenton Landers?
It will be, and it will. I've already got a title, and in fact, I've already got a cover for it.
Okay.
It will be the Survival Initiative. Okay.
Whoa, okay.
And,
I think Bryce probably has a graphic that we can put up of yeah, here we go. There they are. And now, I want the people to know where they can get these.
Okay, they can be ordered on Amazon in print or ebook at this time.
Oh, okay.
So you can get them for your Kindle, for an ebook, or you can order it as a print, either one, from Amazon. And of course, the ebooks are right now, both of them are I think $2.99.
Okay.
The print books. The Awakening is a little bit smaller book as far as number of pages,
Oh,
and the
okay.
number of pages dictate how much it costs.
Right.
So the Awakening, I think, is 10 something, and the Echoes of Skeletons Past, I believe, is 15 something.
Okay, and folks, I have not read the second book, but this first book is really, really good. Now, did you tell me you're going to have a book signing?
I've not got anything set up. I am going to go to the library.
Okay.
In March, the third Friday in March, maybe the 17th, if
Okay.
I'm not mistaken. But I'll be setting up or doing a book review there, and
Okay.
I'll have some books with me at that
Oh, good.
time.
Okay, so
and,
people could actually buy books there
right.
and get them autographed. Now, Ken was nice enough to sign mine. Thank you. I appreciate that. But this is so good, folks, and I'm going to tell you right now, my producer's telling me that we're about to wrap this up, Ken, and I am so sorry, but it comes The Awakening, and it's C.K. Phillips. And so if you go on Amazon and order this, and then Echoes of Skeletons Past, good reads. Well, I don't know about this one being a good read, but I know this one's a good read.
Okay, I appreciate it. And they're a series, but they're standalone. You can read them either in either order, and it won't detract from the story
Good.
or anything.
Good.
But Echoes of Skeletons Past, I think you would enjoy that one, because
I'm gonna start that next.
Deals with some science in there too, with some
Okay.
looking at what happened to some of the giant animals that have become extinct over the years.
Okay.
The woolly mammoth, saber-toothed tiger, and about 3 or 4 other ones, and it gets into some archaeological
Oh, wow.
digs and finding some bones and what happens there, and a group that tries to commit some murders and tries to not only tries to, but gets the bones because they've got an ulterior motive for that.
Okay, here we go, folks. Ken, thank you so much for being on with me. My producer's saying wrap it up, Nancy. So, folks, this has been a good show today. You can either quilt and read or read and quilt. And it's been great to have you on Nancy's Neighborhood. Ken, thank you so much. And I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Okay, appreciate it. Thank you.